Nobody's paid us any money for anything.
True.
This
Very,
is all
very
voluntary.
true. Yeah.
No, so
I just haven't given Michael his checks yet.
yeah. Well, hey, I'll be waiting.
Welcome to the Ask an Audiologist podcast, real audiology white papers written by real audiologists and explained to you by a real audiologist and a guy who isn't. Now, here are your hosts, Dr. Michael Squires and Kevin Ziener.
Finishing up the month with a new episode of Ask an Audiologist. I'm Kevin Ziener.
I'm Dr. Michael Squires.
Today on the podcast, Dr. Michael is going to wow us with his expert knowledge of how many types of hearing aids there actually are. The article, originally written by Dr. Dusty Jessen of Columbine Hearing Care, is going to act as our guide as we traverse the wide landscape that is hearing aid designs. So Dr. Jessen wrote about in-ear hearing aids, but I know there are a ton of hearing aids to talk about. So
Sure.
You choose. What better place to start than with your own opinion?
Oh, if only everybody thought that.
I'm sure. And your wife would probably say, thank God that's not the case.
Yes, for sure, she would. Let's not start with his opinion. So Dr. Jessen did a great job on this article. For those of you who are interested in different styles and variations, that's a great place to start.
Yep.
But like she mentions in the article, there are lots of different types and styles of hearing aids.
For sure.
So when I have a patient come in and we're talking about treatment with hearing aids, that's where we start, because I think that there's a common misconception that every hearing aid is like the size of a shoe or a banana that's stuck behind your ears.
Well, I remember those hearing aids because I've seen them in movies where like there was a big battery pack on your belt and it like ran up your shirt, and then you had this big like thing that looks like my headphones, and that was your hearing aid.
You got it, and that's still what we use today.
40 years later, nothing's changed.
Not even close. In fact, in our industry, things change so quickly. It baffles me that anybody can get trained fast enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? We have to. So I own a private clinic, and my wife and I own a private clinic. Sorry, Carly. Yep.
You can't leave him by himself.
That's it. You can't trust him with anything. But we work with all major manufacturers, and so we have to be up to speed on everything that's coming out that's new, and things change with every manufacturer minimally every 4 to 6 months. Yeah. And so there's a lot to digest there, but we're talking types and we're talking styles of hearing aids today. So there's there's a couple main styles, right? Traditionally, there's a behind the ear hearing aid. This is something that's going to be coupled to the ear with like a custom ear mold or something like that, and a tubing that's going to extend up to the ear. Yeah. Now that tubing, I generally reserve this for a more significant hearing loss, unless we're going to move towards something that's more industry standard right now, which is called a receiver in the canal, RIC, receiver in the ear, RIE. Basically what that is, it's a much smaller hearing aid that's coupled to the ear with a wire. Okay. And so we've got a very small wire that comes down to the ear, and then you've got a receiver. So the loudspeaker that's actually putting the sound out is seated in the ear as opposed to sitting up behind the ear and then pushing the sound down a tube. Got it. Okay. So in general, those are the behind the ear style hearing aids. Yeah. And there's all variations within that: rechargeable, power, ultra power, mini, all variations of behind the ear. Wow. Right? But what we're talking about is in the ear. Got it. And it's exactly what you think it would be. It's a hearing aid that's going to fit inside of the ear. Some patients, they don't want something that sits up behind the ear, whether it's they just don't have enough real estate up there. Now we're wearing masks or glasses or oxygen. So for whatever the reason might be, some patients just want to have a custom product that's fitting in the ear rather than behind the ear. Yeah. It's important to realize that with today's technology, the hearing aids are getting smaller and smaller. They are more capable of Bluetooth connectivity or rechargeability or something like that. So depending on the patient's anatomy, a lot of this can fit down into the ear, right? There are different styles of in-the-ear hearing aids, from something that we refer to as a full shell that's going to fill up the entire outer side of the ear there.
I have earbuds that are like that. They fit in the totality of the ear, right?
You got it. Yep. And all the way down to what we call an invisible in the canal, something that's going to be incredibly small that fits very far down into the ear canal. Those are not going to be at least currently, they're not going to be a rechargeable hearing aid, and they're going to use the smallest battery that our industry uses, which is a size 10.
Got it.
You're going to get somewhere 3 to 5 days out of those batteries generally, depending on the hearing loss.
Got it.
And so the hearing aid itself is the size of the faceplate, the size of the battery, whatever it'll fit.
And is that symptomatic of the ear canal being small, or is that symptomatic of something else with the patient?
So sometimes it's preference.
Okay.
Sometimes it is just, sometimes it's a necessity because maybe the patient had cancer on the top of their ear and they had to have the top of their ear cut off or something like that.
Sure.
And there's no real estate up there. Then we have to use something that uses the anatomy or the, the topography of the ear canal to hold that hearing aid into place.
Yeah.
So like I said, sometimes it's just a preference. Sometimes patients want to find something that's as small as can be that will be less visible, and they don't care about anything other than just hiding that hearing aid. They don't want anything externally. And so the ear canal anatomy is going to really determine what can be used.
Makes sense.
Right? So I have patients that say, I want the tiniest hearing aid known to man, and they have a collapsing ear canal. So instead of a nice round opening to the ear canal, it's more almond shaped.
Yeah.
And so we just don't have the real estate to put that, put all the parts and pieces of the hearing aid down into that ear canal.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do is we have to back it out into the outer portions of the ear. The hearing aid's going to be a little bit bigger than what we originally intended it to be.
Yeah.
But it'll all fit in there in most cases.
And I think what's interesting is, I mean, you're talking about something that's really the size of like the tip of your finger, almost, if not smaller, right?
Yep.
And it still holds the parts of like the microphone, the amplifier, the sound processor, the receiver, which are like crazy components that used to just be in monster speakers and sound systems. And now it's just literally something that you could just flick and forget forever.
It's important to remember that they're prescription.
Yeah.
And because they're prescription, they're using nanotechnology. So we've got microprocessing chips there that are less than a centimeter square.
Crazy.
Right? And even smaller than that. And so these technologies, like you're saying, these technology companies, these hearing aid manufacturers have to fit all of these components somehow into that device. And so like when we talk about rechargeability, they're going, why can't I found this one online that's rechargeable.
Yeah.
Well, it's not as invisible as what you think it is, right? It's not fitting you quite like you think it is.
Sure.
It might be rechargeable, but it's probably linear, which means it's got less parts and pieces. It's not as smart. Some manufacturers will actually have the capsule and then they'll build the hearing aid around it.
Got it.
Some manufacturers will build the exterior of the hearing aid and then they'll fit the parts and pieces in it. And so generally those manufacturers are going to be able to make the smaller hearing aid because they're willing to kind of change how all of those parts and pieces are fitting together.
Yeah. I just think, I mean, listening to you describe it, I think we all understand hearing aids, but we understand them in our world that also has AirPods and earbuds. And we're like, well, yeah, of course that technology exists. But it was hearing aid manufacturers that more or less made that possible for us consumers to then just have that, the over-the-counter version of it from our favorite, technology company. So I can't even fathom what it would have felt like to be somebody, and we know people who've been practicing for 40 or 50 years and see what it is today from where it was when they were AUD students.
Yeah, I talked to my dad about this. My dad practiced when I was a kid, and he said it's just unbelievable to see the difference in what I wear versus what he was fitting on patients at that time.
So do you, when you fit, obviously, again, you're treating the patient. You're not pushing an agenda on them. Yep. But is there one that you think in the ear is kind of universally better for most people?
Like a manufacturer?
No, just a type, a style.
So a lot of this depends on the hearing loss.
Nobody's paid us any money to advertise on this yet, so we're not even mentioning anybody by name.
Nobody's paid us any money for anything.
True. Very, very true. Yeah.
No, so
I just haven't given Michael his checks yet.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'll be waiting. No. It's very individualistic.
Okay.
There's no this is a great hearing aid for everybody. The thing that's important to remember is that all reputable major manufacturers make a good hearing aid.
Got it.
Right? They're all using technologies that are different in different ways to accomplish the same goal.
Yeah.
And that's communication. And so what might work for one patient might not work for another patient, but just because of the processing strategy or the what we call the fitting algorithm or the prescriptive algorithm that they're using. So we as audiologists have to be able to say, well, this is the scenario that we've been dealt. This is a scenario that this patient is dealing with.
Yeah.
And these are the criteria that we're going to be using to select a hearing aid specifically for that patient that will cover the majority of our bases and will do the best for that patient. And so that's why I think it's important to work with more than one manufacturer, or at least have that at your disposal if you need to pivot and change gears. I think that's best for patient care.
Well, to learn more about what hearing aid style is potentially correct for you, please continue your search at askanaudiologist.com, and always make sure you discuss this decision with your hearing care professional of choice. Thanks so much, Dr. Michael.
Hey, thanks a lot, Kevin.
See you guys next week.
See ya.
You can find more information at askanaudiologist.com, and you can follow us on all our social channels at Ask an Audiologist. The information provided on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and does not substitute for professional medical advice.
Have you ever hyper customized something specifically for you?
I think maybe a shoe.
Nice.
I think I've done a customized shoe before. I think it was a Converse or something.
That's amazing. I've wanted to customize something before. I just never have.